Back for episode 12 on a beautiful Monday here in New York. And today we're here with Lee Nichnowitz, and you're from Translation in LA, Lee. Thank you so much, man, for joining us and making the time on a Monday.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Definitely been, following you for a minute, and, we've been connected on the side. So I'm just happy to be able to make this happen for you and me. I'm excited about this. It's really dope.
Absolutely. Now, you're currently an executive producer there in Translation, but you've been in the agency world for nearly a decade. Is that right?
Yeah, a little less than a decade, I would say. I've been in production a little bit longer. Started my career early on in production side, and then kind of moved over to the agency world, which kind of where I've been staying. Did a little stint at the client side, but ended up back in production. Funny story is that came up in the food business world in Manhattan. I had a friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm shooting a Charles Barkley commercial with Spike Lee, Coors Light, Silver Bullet, back in the heyday of advertising," and said, "Hey, do you want to come help me on a set?" And that was my first experience of being on a set where I was just like, "Holy cow, this is cool. What are people doing, right?" And through that, I just kind of navigated the world of getting into production, right? As I started learning more and more and growing, I became more interested in the creativity around all the ideas. And I think that's what led me into, getting into working at an advertising agency, not just being on set, shooting something and then handing a product off, right? Really being in from the beginning of it, the middle stages of it, formulating it, and then seeing final product somewhere out in the universe, right? I think those are, as a producer, right? Those are the really exciting things, I would say, that have gotten to me where I've got to today.
Mm-hmm. And so, how did you end up get to Translation? Was there anything that sort of drew you there as well?
It's funny. It's a good question. I definitely knew a little bit about Translation. I knew about the work that they were doing. They're up and up agency working through on a lot of cool brands. And then, just luckily through a mentor of mine basically made an intro. And then I just started kind of freelancing and started to see the inside of the agency and where it was going and the goals and what it wanted to do and where the agency wanted to go and some of the clients that I was working on. And, I'm a big sports fan. So, that's something that they worked on a lot, and just thought it was a good fit for what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go.
How long have you been there? Nearly, was it 4 years?
It'll be 3 years actually in November. So not a full 4 years yet, but almost 3 years in November.
Awesome. And so what was one of the first agencies you actually sort of put your foot down in, okay, this is my first serious role?
It was called GSD&M, Austin, Texas. Got there, got my feet wet working there as an associate producer, working on a big brand, Walgreens, which was, it's a pharmacy, right? So a lot of SKUs, a lot of different products, a lot of things that they were always marketing, which was, pretty cool to kind of get my hands around, and kind of learn a little bit how to operate with clients on the side, plus a real rigorous client where you're testing and you're making animatics and a lot of ideas are coming across the table. So I think that was a good intro to, kind of a client agency relationship, I would say, and then trying to incorporate production into that.
Awesome. And what was your role sort of throughout that project?
Yeah, for that project, I was actually on the pitch team who helped win the business at Pizza Hut. Again, some of the things that I brought into the agency model sometimes was just pitching, was just go for it, right? Through resources and connections and production. I would say, let's make a spoof, let's make a pitch, let's make a spec, let's make something and show them what it could be, right? So we did a lot of that when I was there through just resources and people just being hungry, right? I think as a producer, you're not just an order taker, right? You bring the ideas to the table, help your creatives bring something better than just the deck to the meeting, right? Let's get people oohing and ahhing about stuff. So I think that was always fun. and just helping those roles. So help bringing the ideas to life is what the job was really about.
What was one of the biggest things you learned from dealing with the clients over that time?
Just being prepared, right? Like if we're being able to show them something, and we're gonna say we're gonna show them something, is just be transparent. I live by that word, is just being upfront and honest with people from the get-go. And then you create those working relationships where people trust you, right? Getting that trust is important. If you gain that trust throughout the process, then everything else kind of falls into place.
And it obviously gets harder the more clients you're dealing with, the more volume there is, the bigger the client. Does it get overwhelming to an extent?
I think certain things can definitely become overwhelming, especially when they're out of your control, right? As a producer and everybody like in what we do, and this too, Tyson, is that like you always want to be delivering everything as best you could, but sometimes whether it's a calendar, whether it's a timeline, whether it's a client related issue, whether it's something from a production standpoint, whether it's a budget issue, whether it's talent, there's a million things that can happen on a production that could hinder certain things, but it's all about just making sure how you handle it, right? So yes, things always get a little stressful, and it's just part of the nature of what we do.
Like you mentioned, like the landscape that we're all trying to navigate through now, and that big shift. How has it specifically shifted with clients? Like, is it just higher volume, just obviously stretching budgets? Is it incorporating influence marketing? Like, yes, I guess the industry has done these things to an extent in similar ways since the dawn of time, but in the world that we're living in now, like, how has it shifted since you got into the agency world?
I mean, I think it just all depends on the client, right? I think like budgets are definitely changing, but budgets are always a little different per the client and per the package of deliverables, right? I can only talk about some of the clients that I work on previously and to date. I think like, when I worked on a regional brand and you had regional media deals, you had regional budgets and those were lower. But then when you're working on like global pieces of business, you're going to have bigger budgets that require bigger things, bigger creative, bigger ideas, bigger support, which then balloon it. But then you're going to have that kind of deliverable package could be way bigger than your regional package, right? So again, it's kind of a give and take, and working with big budgets is not always the easiest either, because the ideas are massive and you're always trying to figure it out.
And I was going to say, like, even the biggest budgets definitely doesn't always make it easier. Sometimes it's the hardest clients to deal with and the most expensive situations to be in.
100%, and I can definitely agree with that. Just working on MBA, like, our budgets are ballooned due to our logistical nightmares, right? And that's just becomes like hard cost that you can't really, doesn't really go on camera, right? You're either dealing with labor or logistics, and that stuff becomes cost money, especially when you're working in a union kind of world.
Definitely. Has there been, as far as deliverables go, how has that sort of shifted over the years? What are clients asking for now that they weren't 5 years ago?
Oh, I think it's like all the 916 has been a big thing in this world these days, and obviously all the TikTok, organic, social. So you're always fighting a few different things, right? At least in my world, I'm fighting always a few different things on a few different clients. Are we capturing stuff in our main camera and then going to cut it out and create social pieces? Or are we then doing that plus something? Like, are we doing like a 6-second, practically with the talent? Or are we creating specific social pieces for specific platforms, right? Are you doing specific TikTok stuff? Are you doing specific IG Reel stuff, right? Are you going to now incorporate a live component where you're now going to be live streaming, with your talent to your fans from somewhere else? So I think I think deliverables have definitely changed a bunch in the last, even like 2 years, right?
You've obviously worked with a ton of different creatives in different areas over the years. Are there things you look for on like a I guess discovery call or first intro call with a possible creative?
I think like just working process is number one, right? I think like, in this business, there's a lot of options. I think you want to work with people that are kind and understand like, you know, the overall project needs and understands like what might come up during the project. So I think again, like just go back into these key phrases that I keep using that keep me kind of in my mold of production. It's just like transparent, right? So like this is all just business, right? So no matter what, if they're a relationship of mine, I'm going to be transparent as possible with them. Like, hey, this job is going to be X, or this is going to be an easy job, or there's going to be these red flags throughout the way. So then again, there's no surprises down the road that people are like, hey, why didn't you tell me about this? Or this is going to be an overage. Again, like these are the type of conversations that you want to try to avoid, because then you're going to have to go back to your clients and now say, hey, what I told you on that previous call wasn't actually correct. I have to charge you another X, or I'm not gonna be able to hit your deadline because of X. So these are back to just like some of those like key words that kind of keep me in the mold of just keeping those relationships right in front of you all the time is transparency. All the time, whether it's talking to clients, outside vendors, your creatives who have the idea, um, just goes back to sharing and being open-minded as well.
So back to sort of your side on the agency side, what has your interview process and onboarding process been like moving between agencies? Like, have you always had to have an immaculate portfolio?
I think it also gets like, it's obviously portfolio, word of mouth, it's history, relationships, how you conduct business, can you handle certain things? I think it's just all this depends like what the needs are, right? I think if when I'm looking for a producer, I'm always looking for somebody that's not just like an order taker, somebody that's like creative problem solver, than somebody, and you don't have to have like the real of stuff, because you're gonna learn. You're gonna keep every jump is a new transition into your career. So I'm always just like looking for people that are interested in growing in what we do.
People that are coming up in the agency world, like still in college or coming out of college, how would you recommend they approach the onboarding? Getting a job at the moment is, from what I can see, is just hell on earth for a lot of people. Are there certain ways or bits of advice that you think people can navigate it a bit better?
I don't disagree with you, right? It is an interesting world out there. I think like internship is something huge, and if there's a brand that you want to associate with, try to get involved in that brand. Like a lot of companies are taking internships. I think that's, as a college, somebody coming out of college or in college, I think get ahead of the job curve. If you're a sophomore in college, then you should be interning every summer, and whether it's a production company, whether it's a TV studio, whether it's an agency, just try to get your foot in the door. Cold call people on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is there for a reason. People created that, the message portion of that app for a good reason, right? Take advantage of it. I would just say that would be my major advice right there.
What do you find that you're most passionate about in your work?
I mean, it's a really good question, Tyson. Like, I think one, I love what I do, right? So I think like that is important to anybody's careers. Like, obviously love what you do is super important. Waking up every morning and being excited what you're about to embark on, especially in production, right? Like long hours, and sorry for the little shake there, but long hours, and it could turn into like a lot of ups and downs, right? And slow times and fast times, and slow times and fast times. So back to just again, like passion. I think like I just love to be able to make something from that comes off a piece of paper, right? I think like that is the reality of what we do. And I think my passion starts when it gets handed to production. It's like, do this, make this. How do we do this? Help me. And then like from a producer standpoint, it's like you're now like beautiful minding this experience with your vendors or your partners to again, like holding hands with your team to make all this stuff happen. So I think like that's where my passion comes from, to be honest.
Did you ever think agency work or, brand selling work would be sort of your creative outlet as well?
No, never.
Never, right?
Never, ever.
It's the same with so many people I talk to.
Yeah, no, I never thought that, to be honest. Like, and I never really like, I guess I guess what's funny is I never really thought I was like, a creative when I was younger, obviously, because I was never a good artist, right? But again, like if I go back into like my earlier parts of my life and my history of like how I am creative, I went to culinary school. Like I am the short order cook at my house. Like I am like open up the refrigerator and I can create something out of nothing, right? So I guess like, again, like the creative side of my head does work. I know that.
And there's like creative problem solving is like the biggest thing I love as well. It's like, how do you make so many people happy? How do you take these goals and challenges that are just text at the very beginning, turn them into some form of vague imagery to get approval from someone to then go and make something that's actually tangible, that can sell a product or even better, like change the way people feel and think about something.
Yeah. Or even like give the people the knowledge about a product, right? I think that's super important too, which is obviously a lot of what we do, in 95% of it, right? We're trying to inform people of something.
Yep, 100%. Do you lead a team there?
Oh yeah, I have like I work with maybe like 3 other producers right now.
And what do you love with some of the people that you work with? Are there any traits like yes people?
Everybody I work with is so organized, like just buttoned up and just really smart about how they're tackling stuff. And I think like when you have a team that's like gelling and like really like well-oiled machine where like everybody knows their place and their roles and where they can chime in and where they shouldn't. And I think like those are I think it's amazing the way that operates, right?
100%. It's funny, like being as obviously like the way I started was like a lot of creatives, which was just me holding a camera, filming whatever I could at the time. You get a client, you sort of grow in a bit, but then seeing what you're able to achieve with more creatives around you and being able to build, especially like, that's why I love working with agencies as well, because you get this whole other new element, this whole new team that you're just like, okay, we're coming together to create this one incredible thing that we're all excited for. And it kind of feels like first day of school sometimes.
I was even saying like this, it's almost like music, right? Music's so subjective, right? So then you put like, say the music track in the circle and like, what does everybody think about the music track, right? You're going to hear a different answer from everybody.
Yeah. 100%. And that's the beauty of it, is because you just, sometimes bad ideas, just have the element of what you needed to hear. Maybe it's not the answer, but it's it sort of has something that will make you think about something in a different way.
Yeah, for sure.
After a bunch of different projects that you've worked on, what do you think makes content win?
I think like goes back to the brief, like what are the clients asking for, right? Cool thing for, something I've worked on is like NBA, right? We worked on NBA last year playoffs and we created creative team created like, the slogan playoff mode. Like playoff mode's on like year 2 of like, was Jason Tatum in playoff mode? Or like, again, you're just going back into like what things are working and what caught on and like, how do you continue to catch on and build off those wins, right? I think like, it was pretty cool to see like, all these people kind of like all the tweets get around it and just kind of start to things go viral. And then even just go into year 2 of it. And then like the team that had worked on it last year got excited about their slogan, even going into like this season, but different creative team worked on it. So I think like, I don't know, it's just kind of cool to see how like the ideas are like, can keep on living, right?
It's like in that moment, like that example is perfect for that. You feel like you're adding to a bit of culture as well. Like you sort of created something that people use, and it's like it becomes like second nature. They don't even know they're saying it and where it came from.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then just like continue to see it, and then like see it on tweets and memes, and you're just like, that's cool. you're like, I was part of
Definitely.
it, you know? So I think like all that stuff is like, again, just goes back into those passion things that you're working on, right? If you loving what you do, you're loving like, you know, I'm extremely lucky and grateful. I get to work on MBA and that account as a whole, you know, it's, you know, you get to do things and see things and be around things that, you know, every kid probably dreams of at some point. Because I know I have. That's all I can say.
Nice. Hell yeah. All right, so I've got a few rapid fire questions that we're going to blast through as quick as we can. All right?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's do it. So what dish do you cook best?
Oh, I'm a prime strip on the grill steak guy. That is my best dish.
I love the energy for it. What is your guilty pleasure?
Foot massage.
Oh, really? Yep. Nice. What is your pet peeve?
Common sense. If you don't have it, I hate it. Can't teach it.
Yep. What's your biggest weakness?
I'm a sucker for people, so you know, like I'm always down to give people multiple chances, I would say.
Is that not panned out very well sometimes?
I think it pans out, you know, again, like
Net it pans out.
yeah, I think so, right? Like
Yeah.
not everybody's always 100% on, right? Give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm big on second chances, I think. So I'm always a big, yeah, I would say underdog too. You know, always root for that underdog.
Hell yeah. And what's your biggest strength?
Just connection with people. I think like being able to connect is a real strength of mine. Making sure that really like keeping my side of the relationship open, right, and doing my part. If I say I'm going to do something.
You feel so calm, collected, in control. How do you deal with people that will just screw up their first chance of some kind of partnership with you?
I think it just goes back into like expectations, right? And you know, and accountability, right? If you know, say we were in a work again, like every production, every job is different. So you might have a partner that you worked with for the last 3 years. You might have great relationships for the last 10 years. You might have one experience that might be meh, right? Or harder than the previous or harder than any of them. And I think like just giving that second chance, right? Like, you know, there's multiple reasons why things happen and not one person is always is accountable in my opinion. So I think it's just looking at things from the big picture, making sure that, again, if somebody was responsible, just hold the accountability.
Yeah. No, I love that. When you were 12 years old, what did you want to be?
Basketball player.
Now you're working for the NBA.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Well, do you have a morning routine?
My morning routine is just getting set up for the day. I don't have a morning routine because I'm West Coast. I work East Coast hours, so my mornings are kind of a little crazy. But yeah, it's all about the kids in the morning, getting them out of the house for school or camp as we're just hitting summer right now.
Yep. Do you have a fitness routine? Because you seem like a fit guy, and that's hard in the creative world.
Yeah, I go on a daily walk, a couple miles a day with the dogs, and then I try to hit the gym 3 times a week.
Hell yeah, nice. If you couldn't work in this industry, what profession would you pursue?
I would be a barista.
Were you ever a barista?
Yeah.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. Like it's where I learned a lot of traits, a lot of things, a lot of skills, a lot of tools. I mean, you know, you're always thinking on your feet in that world, right? Hospitality a little bit.
I feel like you can weed out people, especially like interns that come in. I feel like you can weed out people that haven't worked in hospitality.
100%.
Like the kid that doesn't smile and say "Is it please and thank you."
100%. 100%. Like for example, I went for a coffee yesterday and in the morning with my daughter. This one coffee shop at my house. So I was like, I don't want to make coffee. It's Father's Day. I'm going to go for a nice coffee. And I was thinking as I left there, I was like, wow, she really, really hates her job. She really is miserable. She works in a coffee shop and she's like making people coffees on her day, on a Sunday. And I get it. But I was like, thank you, appreciate you. Like, not even like, just like, here's your drink, get out of my face. You know, it's just like, man, I was like, you hate I literally said that in my head. I was walking out.
Yeah.
So it's funny you brought that up.
That's it. Man, that's just a regular Tuesday in New York. All right, last rapid fire question. What do you regret spending money on?
Sneakers.
Is that a regular thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So end of the month.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I never got into like, getting into like sneakers in like 15 years ago, but I kind of just was always, my holy grail was, Michael Jordan 4s when I was a kid, and I think like getting those created something when I was a young kid and it hasn't stopped. And I would say that's probably something that I wish never happened.
All right, I actually got one more question. What's the biggest learning experience you've had?
I think like my biggest learning experience was going from the agency side to the client side. And I think like learning, clients kind of work 9 to 5. They really do. Like us in this world of production and advertising world, agencies don't work a 9 to 5 time. And in the client, when I went to that side, I actually used to get in trouble for like slacking people late or sending an email after hours or trying to get ahead of stuff like as a producer, because again, like, in my head, I was always trying to like just set myself up for the next day, where again, like client side, I felt like was a little slower and a little different the way they operate. So I think that was a huge learning lesson for me, that I've shared that information with people who want to go client side, right? From an agency. You live in an agency world, a production company, and you want to go client side, like you're going to hit some roadblocks if you're like a doer and you want to make things happen and you want to, push things up the hill to make things get across the line. But again, clients operate at a little slower levels, slower time.
You feel like you're less in control of your destiny as well?
Yeah, for sure.
Those roles?
100%.
Yeah. So I feel like, we're the world that we live in is pretty much like every day you get to sort of make a new connection or think of something in a different way, and you get to try and test a bit more than, you're a part of a team on the client side. That's just, this is the way we do it. And that's pretty much it.
100%.
All right, so we're going to end this with, I didn't prep you at all for this, but I want you to ask the audience one question. Anything you want. It can be as random as what they had for breakfast. Can be about work.
I would just say to whoever's listening, like, yo, if you need something, hit me up. It's not even a question.
Where do people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn is the easiest probably. You could probably tag me or Instagram. But as far as like question, what's everybody's goals? Like, what does everybody want to do? If somebody can do one job or one campaign or one athlete or one specific client, like, I guess, like, yeah, let's just go into that. Like, you can work on one specific client. What would that client be?
What's that for you?
I think I want to work for I want to work at like Nike or something. Like, that's like my end all. I think maybe, specifically
have you
client that like, go back into the Jordan brand, like go into like that world where, roll back into like the sneaker conversation when I was, a kid and the Jordan 4s and, like I would probably start there.
Do you think with the scenarios that you found where you sort of peeked behind the curtain a bit too much and it sort of ruined a brand or something for you?
No, I think I would just say to everybody else there, just manifest it, right? Like if you want something, just manifest it. Usually it happens. Big believer.
100%. Awesome, man. Well, that's everything I've got to ask for you. Thank you so much again, brother. On a Monday, midday, probably the busiest, worst time to ask you to do this.
Tyson, when I come to New York, me and you are going out for a drink. Can't wait to shake your hand, say what's up to you. Really appreciate you again, and let's just keep in contact and keep connecting.
Hell yeah, brother! I appreciate it so much. I'll talk to you real soon.